Thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. Of course, we're celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month, all this month. And I just want to encourage you that this series that we're doing is a really, really great series called What Are You Looking For? What are you looking for? I talked in the very first episode about how I lost this ring. I was looking for this ring for like months, months on end. I think, actually I was looking for it maybe over a year, year and a half, which is like super frustrating because it's always in the back of your mind. If you have ever lost something, you kind of know how that feels. You're like, I keep looking. And sometimes it's urgent, like we're looking for the keys to our car, we're looking for our phone, right? Ooh, I lost my phone. Or we leave something someplace, lost my credit card. We can lose all kinds of things, and maybe you relate to that. But I want to talk a little bit today about a couple of lost things, and Jesus talks to us about this in Luke 15, the parable of lost. So there's three parables here. And these parables are lost coin, that's not the right order, lost sheep, lost coin, and what's considered the lost son. And in these parables, I like thinking about these parables because they're similar to each other, but also have some differences. And if you think at the very beginning of the chapter, it identifies Jesus is talking to, and I think this is really fascinating. He's giving these parables to two audiences at the same time. The first audience is tax collectors and sinners. And it says tax collectors and sinners were coming to Jesus to listen to him, right? So all the reprobates and the renegades, all those people who were like, rebellious, they're coming to listen to Jesus. But the second audience at the same time, I find this really fascinating. It says Pharisees, scribes, and religious leaders, they began to grumble. I think that's really interesting because sometimes if we're not careful religiously, we might want to think about grumbling or complaining or arguing or saying, wait a second, and Jesus is giving these parables to both audiences. So they relate to they relate to us, whether you're super religious or whether you're a super major reprobate. Jesus is giving us these parables, talking about lost. And I like these parables because the first one is the lost sheep. And the lost sheep, at this time in history, shepherding was a big deal. And sheep were part of a person's wealth, their income. And you measured how wealthy you were by the quantity of sheep that you had. And so the sheep that got lost, there was 100. I want you to pay attention to the numbers here on some of this because there's 100 sheep and one gets lost. And so it says the shepherd goes to find the one lost sheep, 1 out of 100. Meaning that even though he's got 99 sheep that are still present, he still is after the one that walks away, wanders away, and kind of loses their train of thought and just kind of meanders and walks away from the sheep fold. And I appreciate that maybe you might be like a sheep or I'm like a sheep. We have wandered away. We have gotten lost. We got distracted. The shepherd went and we kind of got off in our own little world and didn't realize that, wait a second, I'm not following Jesus and I don't know where he is. And so I appreciate that the shepherd comes to find us, right? Because Jesus is the good shepherd. But I also want you to think about this, emphasizing not only the lost sheep, and the sheep is an animated, it's an animal, right? Like animated and moves and has its own kind of free will, if you will. But the next thing that gets lost in these parables is a lost coin. And this is interesting. Remember the lost sheep, 1 out of 100. And they still go after the one. In the lost coin, it says a woman lost 1 out of 10 coins. So the proportions get smaller. 1 out of 100, now 1 out of 10. The sheep is an animal, right? A living animated entity. The coin is not an animal, is not living, is not animated. The coin, what makes the coin valuable is intrinsically to itself. It doesn't do anything, but it has purchasing power. It has power to accomplish something, power to get something, power to do. So the sheep has power or value because it's a sheep, animated and can grow, and you can eat it and have wool and all that stuff, usage. Whereas the coin has power to do something, to achieve, to acquire. And it's valuable, so valuable that the woman, and we'll describe what happens next week in these three people who are searching, but the woman does everything, finds the lost coin. And in both the lost sheep and the lost coin, when they are found, the sheep gets found, the coin gets found, there's a huge party. The shepherd invites his friends, the woman invites her friends. We found something valuable that was lost. And maybe sometimes we have lost what's valuable in us. We feel like we don't have importance and significance. Maybe like the sheep, you got distracted and you're like, ooh, now I'm not really close with Jesus. Maybe there's something intrinsically in your soul and your heart that you feel the value, your importance, your significance was lost. Maybe something happened in your upbringing. Maybe you got rejected in a job. Maybe you didn't get accepted in a college, and you feel like your value, your importance has been lost. But I'm just saying to you today that whether you're the lost sheep or maybe the lost coin, you say, well, I relate to both of those. But there's also the idea that there's a lost son. And I appreciate in these parables that everything that is lost gets found. So the lost sheep, even those 1 out of 100, still gets found. Leaves the 99 to go find the one. The lost coin gets found. And now we know this parable is the prodigal son, the lost son. And there's two here on this one. So we went from 100, one lost. We went to 10, one lost. Now we have two sons and one is lost. And I think in this parable of the lost son, we often think the lost son is the son who ran away and squandered the father's wealth. And if you've read this story, it's really a powerful story. I'd encourage you to pick it up. It's in Luke 15. And the lost son seems like we always think it's the one who, did everything wrong and disobeyed and dishonored his dad and all that stuff. But I would also say to you that I think the other son who did everything right. Both boys, the one who squandered the wealth, left home, and the one who kept all the commandments and did everything right, he told his dad. He's out in the field working and slaving away for his dad when the lost reprobate son comes home. And there's this giant party. The dad's super stoked to see him. He runs out to welcome him. Thank you for coming home, son. You're lost and now you're found. I'm so thrilled that you're back. Put sandals on your feet, a ring, a robe. We're going to throw a party, kill the fattened cow. Yay, you're home, celebrating. Lost son. But at the same time, the one who did everything right was also out in the field, away from the house. And when he heard that his brother was back, he didn't come home. He didn't come home to celebrate and party and welcome his little brother back. Instead, he stayed out in the field. And I appreciate that the father went out to that son as well. And maybe we could rename this parable instead of the lost son or the prodigal son. Maybe we could call this the chasing father, right? Because our father chases us when we've done everything wrong. And our father chases us when we've dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, and we've been the servant of all servants. We've earned our position as a servant, but not received love as a son. And family, I just want to say to you today that no matter whatever is lost, however you are lost, a lost sheep, lost value, lost treasure, lost relationship, that we can let ourselves be found. That Jesus finds us in whatever lostness you find yourself. You might be lost in a city. You might be lost in your own depravity. You might be lost in despondency. You might be lost struggling with mental health. But Jesus can find us and wants to find us and is actively looking for us. So as you think about this today, I want to ask you to think about this question. Describe a time when you were lost. You didn't have your GPS, didn't have your phone. You're like, I feel like I'm lost. I need a map. When you were lost. Just describe that real quick. And thank you so much for subscribing. Of course, hit the notification little bell right there. That lets you know when we have new content up. And here is your joke. See, these jokes, I know, you love these jokes. Maybe that's a faith confession, possibly. Maybe. So, but I really do like this joke. This one, you're going to have to think about it for a little bit. Just pause and like reflect. So, what do you call a magician who loses his magic? Think about that. What do you call a magician who loses his magic? Right? The emphasis on loss. You call the magician who loses magic Ian. I-A-N. I know, you're like, and then you're gonna get this, oh, I get it. All right, next week will be a lot better. Thanks so much.